Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Hi, I'd like to speak on that prompt. I know she speaks, surprise. Can everybody see and hear me okay? Yeah? Okay, well, you all know Carrie. Carrie, if you wanna step in and say hi. Carrie has stepped up to, sponsor me or whatever you want to call it. That's why we're out here in my garage, so we can keep our social distancing and everything. Thanks COVID-20, whatever the hell it is now. I guess I should start with the classic beginning. Hello, my name is Jamie. Some of you already know that. I'm an alcoholic. I'm assuming you know that too. That's the price we pay to be in this exclusive club of ours, right? Hell of a happy hour we've got going on. Some things you should know about me. First off, smartass is my default setting, and I want to let you know that straight out of the gate. Apologize for it. I don't mean to sound flippant or disrespectful. It's just what I do when I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared to be here. I'm scared to not be here, and I really want to thank all of you for letting me just kind of hang back and watch over the past few weeks, especially you, Brother Karis. I want to make some sort of joke about communion wine, but I'm sure you've heard every version of it already. I've been trying to find a group where I felt like I could be fully honest about what I'm struggling with, and I don't know if I'm ready to talk, but I can feel my demons closing back in on me, literally. And I can't keep fighting this on my own, so here I go. Here I go. Here I go. So last week when we met in person, and by the way, I want to thank all of you for wearing your masks and keeping your distance and everything. I have some old lung injuries that make me extra susceptible to the virus, even with the new vaccine, so truly I appreciate it. You might remember that Dale Tucker was talking about the dreams he'd been talking about since he got back from Afghanistan. And I don't see him on the call tonight. He has given me so much encouragement and coffee over the past few weeks. I wanted to thank him. I hope he's okay. Dale was talking about how his dreams are spilling over into his waking days, and how he's learning to deal with the brand new stutter that ends in his mouth while his brain trips over itself trying to figure out if what he is seeing he is actually seeing. I have to be honest, I wasn't exactly sure what the hell he was trying to say, but I needed to know, to talk to him, to hear him out. And that's why we didn't join y'all for takeout tacos last week. Sorry to quash any rumors of a scandalous affair. Even though I'm a sucker for a guy with a stutter, every story is so suspenseful. Dale laughed at that, by the way. I really hope he's all right. Well, we went to the other Mexican restaurant for drinks on the patio. You know, just soda water. I swear, accountability buddy system, and all. And I don't think Dale will mind me sharing this with you. Dale started talking about veils. Like wedding dress, magic genie, Salome's dance of the seven, that kind of veil. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, he said that they're useless for concealing things because, I mean, it doesn't hide the thing. We can still see it. We know that it's there. But it works more like fishing nets, and it keeps things contained and separated. And we all have our veils. Like, in society, it's almost an expected dress code that we wear them, sometimes literally, in public interactions, at work, in relationships, in confessions, and how we interpret the world. It keeps us ever so slightly separated so that nobody is overwhelmed by our true selves. And it in turn protects our true selves in a way. But it takes a lot of energy, a lot of strength to keep those veils in place. And when you're tired, veils start to slip. I guess that's why Salome's dance of the seven veils was seen as so scandalous, because by the end of it, there's nothing left to protect people from all that lives inside of you. You're laid naked and vulnerable on the altar. But what Dale was saying is that what's difficult is figuring out what side of a veil a thing is on. You're at the Renaissance Festival watching the belly dancing show, and this swollen, lusty, yeasty guy goes tottering up to the belly dancing stage and reaches out a paw and swipes his hand down the thigh of one of the dancers mid-step. Now she's wearing this billowy chiffon over her legs, so his hand did not technically make contact with her skin, but his heat went through. She could perceive his lust on the flesh of her leg. So what has touched her and what has not, what protects her and what does not. That night when the dancer goes home and stands in the hot shower, unable to wash off the feeling of that man's touch, she has been changed. But did that change come from outside of her veil or inside of her veil? I kind of got lost in metaphor land on that one. I'm doing a great job sharing, aren't I? I'm sorry, y'all. No, I mean, I apologize. Always be impeccable with your word. Let me get back to Dale. So Dale was telling us how he's been seeing the toddler that ran out into his crossfire, and how his dreams, how he can't tell the difference between what is just a memory and what is actually before him, and how sometimes he can't even look at his own kid because all he sees is the bloodied baby with the big brown eyes and golden skin staring back at him, a tangible embodiment of the question why. I felt like his story was so much like mine. Not that I've ever done anything as admirable as serve in Afghanistan or anywhere. that night at the bar, I asked him, how do you tell the difference between what is real and what is not? And he said, it's all real to you. What's important is it on your side of the veil? So I guess we should thank Dale or blame him for encouraging me to speak up tonight. Cheers to Dale. I really wish he was here. I hope he's all right. Okay. My origin story. The how I got to hear talk. The anti-hero's journey. Listen, you've all been so brave and honest and blunt with what you've shared here. I want you to know that I am speaking with full honesty. In spite of my smart-ass mouth, I would never dishonor the trust that has been built in this space. And I really need you to know that because, we all have reasons why we drink. Something haunts us all. And I'm not an attention seeker. I hope you've sensed that by now. I have had enough attention. And I know how all this is going to sound, but please just stay with me here. Stay with me. Okay. I didn't really start drinking heavily until I was in my late 20s. Didn't really want to. My dad was an alcoholic, and I saw what it did. I have this really clear memory from when I was a kid of us all being back in our backyard at our house, and my mom, who was raised Southern Baptist, by the way, and the only drink she has ever had is a cocktail on their honeymoon. She stepped in a pile of vomit that had been covered up with leaves. And when she finally figured out it was drunk puke, she just lit into my dad, yelling at him that he was lying last night when he said he wasn't drunk, and that she could smell the alcohol on him just spitting venom. And my dad just stood there and took it, just looking down at the ground while my mother verbally piled and piled and piled on top of him. And when she, finished yelling and stormed back into the house, hobbling dramatically and carrying her puke shoe in her hand, my dad took his little plastic cup over to the ice chest. We had just gotten back from fishing, and the ice chest was still in the front of the boat. And he put a couple of ice cubes into his cup. Our refrigerator made them, wedge-shaped and really dense. And then he walked around to the back of the boat and pulled out a little bottle of Southern Comfort from between the fuel tanks by the outboard motor. I don't ever think I'm going to lose the sound of those ice cubes and that little bit of fluid clattering against the walls of his plastic cup. 8-year-old me didn't want anything to do with any of that. The puke, the yelling, the shame, the Southern Comfort, none of it. So as I got older, I never really did the sneaking a drink behind the bleachers in high school thing. I had some sort of weird pride that I didn't even have my first drink until I was of legal drinking age. And then after that, I would have a drink at parties, just to fit in, but that's it. I preferred ice cream. A lot of ice cream. But when I was 27, I went through an vent. I'm not entirely sure what else to call it. I had I had this crew of friends that we had all met working for a pittance at an H&R Block, and we called work the Island of Misfit Accountants. And we would all hang out, bond over weekly board game nights, just being goofs. And one night, we got to talking about the fact that we had all been the good kids in high school, and we never hit those glorified teen milestones you see in films. No sneaking peach schnapps into the movie theater, or spin the bottle, or playing hooky from school, none of that. And so we made a plan to save all of our tax season overtime pay and find a way to do all of that stupid shit that we should have done when we were teens. So that summer, and it was in June, we rented a cabin way, way out in the woods, and we drove out there with liquor and mixers and fishing gear and knives and a machete and an archery setup and a whole bunch of makeup and condoms, and we justified it as a skills trade weekend. I was going to teach everybody how to fish. Dwayne was going to show us how to whittle and sharpen blades. Remy was going to set up the archery setup and show us how to archer. And Luke and Julie were going to give us all makeovers. We didn't really have any computer access, no nearby neighbors, no cell phone access, just a bunch of adults out in the middle of nowhere pretending like they were at a preteen summer camp with booze and sex. On the way out there, we had joked that it was the perfect premise for a horror movie, and so we had to make doubly sure that none of us were virgins so nobody had an unfair advantage. With all that joking, we should have known better. Four days later, I stumbled out of the woods and into a live bait shop, half dead and covered in blood. A patch of scalp from the very top of my head had nearly been torn off by a large canine tooth. There was a 3rd-degree burn on my right forehead. Looked like I had passed out in a hot coal from the fire pit. All the ribs on my right side were shattered, shards of bone lodged into my lung, my chest slowly filling up with fluid. I had lacerations on my back from claws. An errant paw swipe had nearly ripped off my left breast. 80% tear in my left Achilles tendon from another bite. They told me that when I stumbled into the bait shop that I was holding my left hand out in front of me like I was catching myself in a perpetual fall. And, mind you, I don't remember any of this, except that I was very cold and I had my right hand plastered to my stomach right beneath my nearly absent tit, holding in a bulge of large intestine where a single claw had snagged a hole in my abdomen. And the burn. I do remember the burn. Yep, it was that. That was me. It got some newspaper coverage. Some of you might have read about it. from the looks on your faces. Some of you did. 4 dead, mauled. An unprecedented attack. Scientists in the area had never seen mountain lions work as a pair before. We were all outside, middle of the day, around the fire pit, making a ton of noise. All of us drunk enough to had nearly blacked out, according to the toxicology reports. And I was the sole survivor, the final girl, the brave woman that fought off her attackers with nothing but a freshly sharpened machete and fire. The big cats were burned to a crisp. Investigators guessed that I was saved by an extreme adrenaline response amplified by the alcohol. I used to say that cocktails saved my life. Reporters called it a real-life horror movie. And that is when I really started drinking. When I got out of the hospital, $42,000, by the way. I'm still paying it off. I will never own a home or a new car because of that fucking hospital bill. My parents took me back in. We put all my stuff in storage, and they cleared out a spot for me in the back room where my mom keeps every magazine she's ever bought since 1971. It was over 2 years before I could move out on my own again. Took a real toll on my dad, a lot of stress. You can probably guess how he dealt with that. My mom told me daily of how hard it was for her to be living through all of this, and how she was so sick with worry that I can't do anything, reminding me that none of this would have happened if I hadn't have gone out into the woods that day, and this was all my fault. And you can probably guess how I dealt with that. My dad and I would take escape to these little sabbaticals in his tool shed where he kept a little refrigerator full of ice. We were basically just hiding from my mom, but we called it Southern comforting. I am always in such pain from my injuries that I also called it taking my medicine. After the event, once I was coherent again, the cops started visiting me on a regular basis, to the point that we actually became caring friends. I even dated one of them on the sly for a little bit until it became too difficult to keep up the veil of secrecy. And each visit was just full of admiration and pity and questions. Oh, what you've lived through took so much courage. I can only imagine how difficult it is being the only one to walk away alive. Do you remember any more details? Can we ask you about some specifics? You understand this is to protect you. They told me that there were some elements that didn't fit in the crime scene, such as how I set the big cats ablaze and how the fire burned so hot there was almost no flesh left on their bones. How I swore I was lost in the woods for 3 days, and the coroner concluded that the victims had died less than 12 hours before I wandered into the bait shop. A sweep of the area had found trails of a dark substance that resembled crude oil or tar all throughout the scene. Did I know how it got there? The only answer I ever had for the questions was, I don't know. But my brain, it would it would latch on to any little thing that it could remember, playing it over and over and over again with each visit from the cops and each backhanded comment from my mother about how horrible her life had become. And each time I saw my dad wandering out to the shed for Southern comforting, the loop of guilt, wondering, what could I have done to prevent this? Why didn't I do more? Why was I the one left alive? Why didn't it take me? Why was I lying to the cops? Because I was lying to the cops. I mean, not lying so much as omitting. 4 human corpses, 2 feline corpses, 1 human survivor, 7 beings on the scene. There was an 8th being. The only thing I absolutely remember about the event is they. And when I say they, I don't mean like a pronoun like he, she, they. No, this was a they, a dark collective, a mass dark plurality that moved as one. And I saw they. We were all outside. We had finished our whittling and turned to drinking. We stashed our knives off to the side so we wouldn't have a drunken accident, so nobody would get hurt. And about 2 amaretto sours later, I leaned back in my chair and I had a view past the cabin to the edge of the clearing. And I caught movement in the tree line, and have you ever seen a thing that cannot be seen? I mean, like, there is a void that your eyes cannot see, not in the spectrum of cones and rods, but deeper in, you know and trace the shape of it. Well, I watched as this void, it stepped out of the woods and into the clearing, and it stood very still and gazed back at me, and I felt they smile. And it wasn't an unkind smile, it was genuine, but I've seen people gaze upon a pet or a child that they do not despise, but they have absolutely no affection for. It was like that. And I watched as they made a straight path towards me, and they's approach absorbed all of my attention, took it, held it, until I could see nothing else but the very peripheral world. And I have an awareness of slowly standing up and my chair falling over and my friend saying, "Jamie, what is it? What's wrong? What are you looking at?" Shaking me, maybe even a slap. But all of that was not they. They trailed even closer until they was all that I saw. And they was like cornstarch and water. You mix it together and you get a substance that's neither a solid nor liquid. It can break and flow and drip and reform. That was they. Except they's constitution was absence. the lions arrived at some point. I couldn't see them. I could almost hear screams from my friends and the lions. I could almost smell blood and shit. But at this point, they held all of my senses, all of the not space before me. And I knew, as I knew they's non-existent face, I knew that they held thrall over the lions and could call them off and could cease the gore. But they did not. And before long, there was silence beyond the absence, stillness, and they oozed around me, beside me, behind me, and eased up against me as only the most intimate of encounters do, and my eyes were forward, seeing the world again. And there were the lions. And I gasped because they were so beautiful. They were muscular and chiseled and taut with potential energy. And the blood of their carnage blended perfectly with their tawny coats to give them a sheen of rose gold. And as I looked at them, they looked straight through me, eyes locked on they, waiting for permission to turn kinetic. And I swear, the part of my brain that untangled sound heard a chuckle, bowels deep and lusty and velvet, and they entered me like stepping into a bath. I was the water, warm and liquid, and I immediately entered a state of suspension, like the edge of a sneeze or the middle of a tickle are just short of the crest of orgasm. I was fully omnipresent, lost in the vastness of the now, in this moment, and in this moment, and in this moment. Here are the lines in motion. Here's a vise of teeth upon my skull. Here's a machete handle in my palm. Here's a crack deep inside. Here's the taste of copper. Here is air in a space that was once sealed. Here's heat. Here's they once again in front of me. Here's awareness of pain in my body. Here's the slow, gradual return of the perception of past and present. So I guess I'm not lying when I say I don't know what happened, nor how I did what I did. And besides, how am I supposed to tell some beat cop that my burn was caused by some featureless plurality of absence laying what could best be described as a hand on my forehead and drawing forth from me some nurturance like a baby at a teat or a mosquito, only then to release me from the suspension, shivering and broken in the forest. I mean, who is going to not judge me and try to understand that? Who could I tell? I told my dad. It was a couple of years after I moved out. I'd found a work-from-home accounting job that paid just enough to keep my apartment clean and my stomach full and my liquor cabinet stocked. I could lose a day here and there hungover because I could power through 2 days worth of work in one sitting to make up for lost time. Perfect job. Too drunk to feel guilty and too busy to overthink that which cannot be changed. I had gone over to my parents' house for Easter Sunday dinner, and my mom just laid into both my dad and me saying we were lying when we said we hadn't been drinking, and she could smell the alcohol on us and how we clearly did this to make her life miserable. So we figured, hell, we might as well go out and get drunk for real if we're going to get blamed regardless. So we retreated to the shed for Southern comforting, and we just talked about everything from what trees were getting cut down to build the new grocery store to why did my parents even get married in the first place. And my dad mentioned that my forehead scar was looking better, and it all just fell out of me. The Rosegold lions, the suspension, the constant guilt that none of this would have happened if I had not leaned back in my chair and seen they. And my dad just listened, and his eyes teared up. Maybe for what happened, maybe because he could never understand what happened, maybe just for what we all had become. And we hugged, something we never did, and I just closed my eyes and absorbed his love. And when my eyes opened over his shoulder, a darkness smiled at me, and my forehead filled with lightning white fire, and I pushed away from my dad and stumbled out of the shed and threw up next to the building and covered it up with leaves, and I passed out in a plastic chair next to the pecan tree. My mom found us a couple hours later, me half asleep and covered in leafy puke, and my dad unresponsive in the shed. Doctor said that the drinking had caught up with him, that his heart just gave out. But I knew that wasn't the whole of it. It was something I said. I spoke of it. I caused it. I brought they. I stopped drinking for a little while. One of the cops that responded to the call for my dad was the fella I had dated for a bit. We moved in together, helped each other get happy. He helped me sober up. I helped him get a teaching certificate so he could quit the force and teach high school. And we went camping for our 5th anniversary. He set up the tent. I went to the creek to catch some fish. He started a cooking fire. I approached with my catch. I caught movement behind the tent near the tree line. I felt like somebody's pet or child that was regarded with no affection. My scar lit up again, and I just closed my eyes and started screaming, "Craig, we have got to leave now." And we did. Left everything, climbed into the truck, and drove away. Craig asked me what happened. I didn't tell him. I told him nothing. I didn't speak for 3 days. And then Craig came home from classes to find me passed out in the garage next to a bottle of antifreeze I'd been drinking. In the ER, the nurses gave me alcohol to counteract the poison in my system. At home, I gave myself alcohol to counteract everything else. I said, "Craig, you've got to leave now." And he did. Left everything, climbed into the truck, and drove away. And that's when I moved out here, to get away from the absence of Craig and the ever-presence of my mother. I work my job, I meet up with some friends, I I climb on the wagon. I start to think too much. I worry for my friends. I fall off the wagon. I push my friends away. I don't see my friends get destroyed. As cliche as it sounds, my longest relationship has been with the bottle. And now, I'm just tired. My body hurts so much, and I can't keep up my veils anymore. Last week while Dale was talking, I saw the child, not just in my mind from his description, the bloodied baby with the big brown eyes. No, she was there, glowing like a jar full of lightning bugs. Her hair in luminescent ringlets, and her blood spread so evenly over her tawny skin that she looked rose gold. And she stood stock still, eyes looking straight through Dale at a darkness behind him, not solid, not liquid, black as absence, facelessly giving forth a not unkind smile. That night at the restaurant, I did tell Dale that I saw the child, his burden there on his side of the veil. Her wide and beautiful eyes next to him, standing with her tiny hand on his knee, steadying her standing. And Dale cried these big, heaving sobs. They tried to bury in his hands, and I told him, no. Don't fight to hide. Save your energy for the most important veil. You can't worry if people see you as naked and vulnerable. They don't know how hard you are fighting to stay strong. Cling to your wife, cling to your child, cling to those that understand you. Let them help make the fabric of your veil stronger, to help hold it, because you cannot let that darkness get in. If you do, it has you, and they will never go away. He stood and we hugged like litter mates, long and innocent. And his arms were around my back. My arms were around his shoulders. And my eyes looked straight into they. I did not tell Dale that they had followed him all the way from our spaced out circle of chairs to the coffee station, out the rec center doors, to the patio, oozing black plasma, crumbling in a spotty trail the whole way. I did not tell him that they was standing there, waiting, patiently longing to become a third in our embrace. I didn't tell him. And I want to know that he is okay. I need to know that he is okay, because I did not tell him. I did not tell him to protect him. I did not tell him to keep him safe. I did not. Oh God. Carrie, I've done it again. I've said too much. I've dragged all of you into this. It's just, I'm tired. We're all tired. And I can't keep fighting this alone, losing the people I love. My name is Jamie, and I am an alcoholic. And I didn't want to bring this down on all of you. But I can't be by myself anymore. Help me. Help me. Help.
Jamie. Jamie? You alright? What's going on? Jamie, what are you looking at? Oh my God.